and welcome to the Halloween episode of Old School, a podcast from the old Davie School Historical Museum. I'm Kim, the education director, and I love Halloween. I am one of those people who starts decorating in August, or I call it Ogtober, which is followed by October, because why not? Especially this year. I love a spooky season when I'm cozy at home with pumpkin-flavored everything. I'm the one that they sell all that to. It's my fault, sorry, but I've especially loved listening to the This Is Legends of Yesterday podcast hosted by the lovely Zadak sisters, Alexandra and Angelica. They tell spooky and weird stories from all over Florida. I even told a story from when I lived in Tallahassee and we snuck into an abandoned children's hospital that was most definitely haunted. So you can check them out on all podcast platforms like Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and you can enjoy a good ghost joke too. I'm so happy to finally have them on our podcast. They are also very involved throughout the community, through volunteering and through some of the civic groups like the Women's Club and the Chamber of Commerce. So I asked them a little bit about that as well. And then just a quick note about being involved in the community. Remember to vote. Election Day is Tuesday, November 3rd, and every single vote counts. Yes, every single one of them. So please exercise that right. But back to fun spooky time. This Friday is our late night paranormal investigation with War Party Paranormal from 10 p.m. till 2 a.m. There are a few tickets still available on our website, and maybe we'll be able to add your experience to our list of unexplainable occurrences that have gone on here at the Davie School. We'll tell you a little bit about that in this podcast too. But have a safe and fun Halloween and enjoy the interview. Hello, this is Kim, and I have Alexandra and Angelica here.
Hello!
Excellent. And what's the name of your podcast?
Our podcast is This Is Legends of Yesterday, where we talk about histories, mysteries, and ghost stories of Florida. And
I love it. It's been so fun. I love... who doesn't like to start with a week with a ghost story? That's
right. And now, half of the week, we get to scare you, and then you get to sleep listening to us, you know?
Exactly. It's a good way to do it. But good. But you guys are also involved. So This Is Improv is your improv group. Yeah.
This is Improv. We started in about 2015, so that was... we were still in college. Yeah. Oh. So, yeah. It was 2015, and then we were excited to get started, and basically what we do is we not only teach improv for fun and you know, for actual theater skills, but we do improv for life skills as well and for corporate team building. So we bring that into a bunch of different environments because the theater games were actually created for communication skills. So we're just bringing back that vibe from 1956 and trying to teach people how to get along. Basically.
Yeah. So it's the team building aspect with it.
Yeah.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
And did you guys do shows at like Flashback?
Yeah, we used to perform at Flashback Diner, and then we were performing at Falcon Pub before you know, all of the fun stuff happened.
Mm-hmm.
And
in the before times. It's like...
so we were performing there, and that was every Wednesday night at Falcon Pub.
Oh, cool.
Which was great. Yeah. So, yeah.
One day again, right? You'll be back there. Yeah. But then you're also involved in like the Women's Club and the Chamber?
Yeah. So a couple years ago, our mom kind of just like walked into a meeting because we didn't really know what it was all about. Yeah, we heard about the Women's Club, but it was whispers and it was events. Ooh, what is this? It was like a secret society. Yeah. And then she told us, she came home one night because you can go to a meeting to see if that's what you like, you know. And when she came back, she goes, girls, we have to join the Women's Club. Oh. It looks like such a fun thing, and we get to be involved with the town, which is what we love to do. I mean, ever since we could walk, our moms had us volunteering.
Oh, that's awesome.
And she's been involved in the town so much, too, so ever since she got to Davie. Mm-hmm. So it's just been like a kind of family affair of creeping into the volunteering of the town. You know?
Well, the women's club is so neat because it's been around for so long. It's like basically since whether it was official, what year did they form? 1920 something, was it?
I believe it's 1923. Mm-hmm. I could be a little bit earlier. I could be wrong, but I believe it was 1923.
That's awesome.
And originally in that, because we took a tour with Kim around Davie. And what was that house it was in? I always forget.
It was the hotel, and that's what's on the corner of 65th and Griffin. We've talked about it a few times. Yeah, they started the first library in town upstairs.
Yeah. And we still have the original library books from there in the women's club now.
Oh, wow. I love that.
Yeah, we still have the Davie library cards in a lot of our books.
Oh my gosh. Well, now I need to come do a field trip there and see.
Right? Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, and that's when I go through newspapers and stuff, they were always doing like beautification projects in the town, which I would think is neat. Doesn't say exactly what they are, but like planting flowers and making the town look nice. And
a lot of what we do is based off of the GFWC plan. So the GFWC is basically the overall Florida women's club center hub thing,
Mm-hmm.
So they're the ones that have, the president of the GFWC has kind of a plan for all of the women's clubs within the districts, and then we fulfill a part of that plan while also taking on our own projects.
Yeah, usually when we take on our own projects, it is involved, with Davie.
This is with Davie,
beautification. Yeah. Like we've had the cleaning of the canals, where some of the women would go and clean up around there, and then we also get help from the community, which has been incredible. So, for example, the Boy Scouts have come in, and
the Girl Scouts have built us benches to help spruce up the women's club, and we do art shows. The women's club has a art show competition that happens. So,
and then the strawberry shortcake too, right?
Yes,
orange blossom.
The world's famous strawberry.
That's the best part.
Yeah. So the Orange Blossom Festival, we call it the Strawberry Festival, actually. Yeah, because that's all we do. We just smell strawberries before the event. And people come in one by one, 10 by 20s, and then you line up. And they're so good and so patient because they just know how it goes there,
Aww.
So it's fun. At the end of the day, I smell like strawberry cream.
Oh, that's the best. All natural too.
Awesome, honestly. It's kind of like the people at Starbucks and then the baristas just leave smelling like coffee.
Yes.
When you have strawberry shortcake,
right? Oh. That's awesome.
Yeah, what's funny is because Angelica and I are the youngest members of the Davie Women's Club. So when the first year we came in to volunteer for the Strawberry Festival, it was probably about a week before we actually became members. Yeah. And we wanted to volunteer just so they knew that we weren't messing around, that we wanted to, actually get involved. And we walked in and Carol Hatton goes, "Oh, are you at the high school?"
Oh.
And I was like, first of all, thank you for that compliment.
Bottle up and keep it forever. That's oh, that's so sweet.
But it was good, and they're just so welcoming. It's such a family in the women's club, and they want to talk on the phone for hours, and you're like, nice.
Yeah, and like extend your family, and it's something that's cool that I think we've been involved with the chamber, the Davie Cooper City Chamber, but with the women's club, it's this different sense of we're expanding our family.
Yeah, to different.
Yeah, exactly, and it's so cool. Every aspect of Davie in some, it fulfills a different part of your needs. It's almost like Davie itself is a living organism.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
In the organism, fulfilling different roles, and it's awesome.
And even the town is involved with the women's club. So Mayor Paul and Commissioner Haddon, and I believe it's now Vice Mayor Starkey, right?
I think.
Right. And it's just like, it's crazy because then they'll come in and they go, oh, I've had a meeting. Thank goodness I'm here now. It's so relaxing.
Oh, that's so nice. Yeah, so are they still having meetings during quarantine, or?
Yeah, we're doing virtual meetings / in club. So if you're in club, we've set up the tables so that they're farther apart from each other. So it's one lady per table. If for the few that go, not that many in-house, and then the rest are all through Zoom. So it's like a conference in kind of thing. So we've readjusted. We've taught how to use some Zoom for some people. But it's been working and it's been flowing, and we're still trying to set up projects, and we're still working on grants and fun stuff like that. So, and trying to get more involved with the town still, even during all this.
Yeah, and I know the town is getting ready to rebuild over there too, and the little house is right there in the thick of it. New clubhouse, so they're trying to figure that out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be interesting to see what goes forward.
Yeah.
A whole new place, and so you're also involved with the chamber too?
Yeah, so
a little bit of everything.
Oh yeah, that's there's a picture of Angelica and I in like professional dresses that our mom bought for us, and she's in. So it's and all in the chamber. She's a past president. Gosh, I think I was about 9 or 10 when she was president.
I want to say it was early 2000s.
Yeah, early 2000s.
They used to have board meetings, and we would be sat at a little table with like a little tiny coloring book library and things.
Always great.
Yeah,
so
we talk
fun.
about that they were definitely our family back then too, still today.
Yeah, we've known some of the people in the chamber since we could walk. So.
Well, that's awesome, because I think, with everything going on with the election, everything, trying to get people involved in communities, it's not just politics, it's in these small organizations too. So it's so great that young people get involved early, so it's so wonderful.
That's all thanks to our mom. I mean, she has been involved in corporate. She was in her 20s since she was, our age. Since she was in her early 20s. And then
she started the lunatic.
Yeah, she started a balloon business.
That's how she really got involved in the town, trying to promote her business. And through that, just meeting everyone and building these relationships that have really lasted a lifetime.
Oh, wow.
It's crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So
I still remember, actually, what's funny is, like, through the chamber, it was the first time I met Troy Weekly. Angelica and he gave us a belt buckle.
One of the rodeo ones?
Yeah, one of the rodeo
ones. Oh, wow. That's a high honor in Davie. You hold on to that.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Well, this is wonderful. This is like our little crossover episode. So now my next question for you is, have you had any weird paranormal experiences in Davie?
Ha! Yes.
Aha.
funny you should ask.
Aha.
Yeah. Angelica, do you want to go first?
Oh my. So at home? At home?
Yeah, sure, at home. Let's do at home first.
Okay, so at home we've had many paranormal experiences. One that stands out to me, let's just go with it. So when I was in probably 8th grade, I had a bad cold or flu. I don't know what it was, but I was really, really sick. And it's just when I got started in theater. So I was in this summer program for theater. And I was having the shakes. I was having these mass fevers. So I had a fever, and I woke up from sleeping, and there was this kind of spirit Peter Pan guy sitting next to my bed, and he kind of just smiled at me and floated away from my bed, away from that area. And then I woke up and I was like, okay, I think I'm going to get better. I think this is going to be okay. And soon I got better, at least not going through, you know, the shaking, the shivering of the fever. So that was an experience that's kind of lasted a very long time for me.
Oh. Any hints to what it was? Who it was, maybe? Or, like...
I don't know. I haven't seen anything in relation to who that would have been.
Mm-hmm.
So, but to me, it reminded me almost of Peter Pan. So, like, this mischief thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it was, like, if it was a real person, or even, like, there are some entities that are, you know, like, there are those malevolent entities that are demonic,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe with something in between that is just, like, in the atmosphere around type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was watching over us. But in our neighborhood, it's very likely that it could have been someone who was around. I mean, our neighborhood has a history of being a cocaine smugglers.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
In the neighborhood at the Cocaine Cowboys, it's like in the corner back of the neighborhood. Perfect spot for a helicopter to drop a pack of cocaine, you know?
Oh my gosh. Truly the Wild West.
Yeah, but, yeah. I mean, there have even been, you know, the trading of moonshine barrels as currency.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So who knows what could have happened there?
I guess for me, there have been a lot, but one that stuck out the most because it was the most traumatizing was we had been having bad luck, and, you know, we're very big believers in ghosts, you know, either that or we're crazy, but we had been feeling off. I mean, like, there is such thing as an energy throughout the world. So when an energy shifts, whether it's with an actual person or with maybe an event that's happening, you feel it. It's an instinctual biological feeling that humans get. So we all kind of felt really high anxiety, but nothing was happening, and we didn't understand why. So our mom was like, okay, well, why don't we just sage the house? Maybe that'll work. And we had never saged the house before.
Oh, that was a bad...
Yeah, this is a bad one. And so, you know, we're doing everything we think we should. She went around the entire house. And when you have sage, it's supposed to be white sage. And you're supposed to go throughout whatever area with the intention of what it is you're attempting to do. And you're supposed to constantly think of that, right? Mm-hmm. So she did that. She went through the entire house. So we were about to go to bed. We're like, okay, now it smells like sage. So I guess it worked. And when we went to bed that night, I think it was around 2:30 to something. And I woke up in my bed, and I just felt so off. And I tried to get up, and I couldn't move. And then I tried to breathe in, and I wasn't able to breathe. So I tried to move my body, and I kept trying to breathe, but it felt like something was pressing on it. It felt like, it kind of felt like a board was just pressing down on my chest. And then I was able to turn my head, and that was the only thing I could move. And when I looked to my right, there was the perfect silhouette of a little girl just there and just watching me. And I started, like, crying so bad because I was like, I don't want to die today. Especially not like this. I mean, thank you for being in my bed while it happens. But, you know, so it kept pressing down. And then in my head, I kept saying, no, please no, go away, just go away, please. You know what, you're nice, just leave. And eventually, all of a sudden, I went and gasped for air because I was finally able to talk. And it was that whole feeling of not being able to scream when you wanted to.
Ooh, yeah.
And which I've experienced before because I get sleep paralysis a lot. Mm-hmm. So like, I'm used to that feeling, but this was just like a different type of, because with sleep paralysis, it's not that heavily interactive.
Mm-hmm.
It's just feel trapped. So this was different. So I was like, I'm going to go. And I'm going to go to my parents' room, because I don't care if I'm a teenager. I need my parents.
Oh.
So I walked out of the room to go check on them. And when I was passing by Angelica's room, it felt weird, but I didn't want to go in there because I was too freaked. And I went to my parents' room. So now, Angelica, take over your side of the story.
Okay.
So on my side of things, I was sleeping in my bed, and I like to sleep huddled up to a pillow. And so I remember flipping around trying to cuddle with my pillow, and instead of my pillow being there, it was a corpse. So
Ooh.
it was, yeah,
Oh,
it
no.
was, it was kind of awful, but at the same time, it wasn't horrifying. It wasn't something that literally made me jump out of my bed. It was just like a decaying body almost.
Oh my God.
But yeah, it wasn't like a whole person, you know, like you watch scary movies and it's like a body floating in water.
Mm-hmm.
It was literally decayed already. So it was very much almost just a skeleton with like flesh falling off of it.
Oh my God.
And it reached for me. Like it wanted to hug me back because I was going to hug for the pillow, and it like reached to hug me in too. So yeah, it was kind of creepy. I remember that instance, but I don't remember if I don't think I shocked up or like woke up and went anywhere. I think I just held out and stayed in my bed.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Kind of like I think I kind of like, you know, was repulsed and like, you know, but yeah, I remember that going on, and it was similar to Alexander, where I couldn't do anything but continue holding on, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like I couldn't go back, I couldn't like not hug it.
Oh my gosh.
Like, the scenario that was happening, I had to be in this scenario.
Oh my gosh.
So, and I don't even know if it was bad or if it was like, you know, I don't know what the vibe was there, because it wasn't like I'm going to die right now. It was more like there is a corpse trying to cuddle with me.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, and so the next day, did you just tell each other? And I don't even know. How would you?
Yeah. So what was funny is that we all woke up and or I guess Sandra was in the room, but we all came together and one by one told each other our experiences.
Mm.
And it was like, oh my gosh, we all experienced the same thing on the same night. And it kind of...
Nope, that's a horror movie right there. That's
Yeah, pretty much. But we were lucky in that it didn't sustain, because, you know, like in horror movies and stuff, you have a ghost or an entity, and it sticks around for a long time. At least I hope nothing bad stuck around. But that's another story. We have a few things in the house.
oh boy. Yeah, no, that's oh boy, no. I haven't had anything like that happen. That's
But message to take away from this, anyone who's staging the house, first of all, we used black sage, which is not good. You're supposed to use white sage. So pick
wow.
the sage you're saging.
Mm-hmm.
And second of all, when you're saging an area, you should keep windows open. And the reason you keep windows open is so that the entities have somewhere to go. Otherwise, you're just provoking them and they're swirling around and waking up.
Oh, wow. And you caught them all inside. Well, and I've heard that you don't necessarily have to use just sage. Like, you can use different herbs, kind of whatever you're connected to, which I thought was interesting.
Like, what kind of herbs?
There's some people who do, like, rosemary incense, and so they use that instead. Because it's just, I don't know what it depends on, but it's more of, like, whatever your spiritual connection is to. But
That makes sense. I mean, if you use religious, the cross, the crucifix, I mean, that works as well. It depends, I guess, exactly what you're saying, whatever you're spiritually connected to. it was definitely a creepy night for all of us.
I'm sure.
Definitely traumatized.
Going to bed the next night, was that a peaceful night?
The next night we were all too on edge to really sleep much.
Sure,
yeah. Not cuddle with my pillow.
Oh.
That, I did not want to be in my room, period. I'm pretty sure I slept on the couch that night.
Oh.
Because I was like, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Did it all go away?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the nights. One of the fun nights.
Oh.
Yeah, one of the fun nights in the Zadak household.
Yeah, I've never had anything happen like that at home, but at the museum, weird stuff has always happened, but nothing big like that.
Well, have you ever researched? I don't know how new your development is, but we decided to research our development. It was built in the 70s on top of, like most of Davie, which was a swamp and orange grove and whatnot. But like I remember when I was little, I just remember this so weird. When I was little, I used to always look towards one of the windows next to the TV, and there was this guy who looked like he was wearing older clothes. And he was ginger. He had like red hair, red beard. So I thought he was a leprechaun when I was little. and he just had like older. He was wearing older clothes, and he was just like looking.
Oh, wow.
And I saw him for a couple days, and then I never saw him again. And it would be like a couple seconds. He would like be there, and then I would look around, like, does anyone else see him? And then I would look back, then he'd be gone.
Oh boy.
Well, you said that there's weird stuff that happens at the museum. What kind of weird stuff?
Yeah. So it's when I first started there. I remember like people on the board were like, "Oh well, have you heard the voices in the museum?" Like, what do you mean? Like, have you heard? Oh, you'll hear talking in there all the time. And I'm like, oh boy, I don't know about that. And so when we first started to do like the ghost tours, which was just a few years ago, it was just kind of like nothing particular. But the guy had showed me that you could have the ghost app. It's called like Ghost Detector, and so it works kind of like one of their tools where if the spirits, they can push certain words through, I guess. So I had that on in the museum, and I was in there by myself, and I'm in the Everglades room where we have the big giant alligator, and when you have I just had the app sitting there, and it'll say the different words that come out. So I'm in there, I'm not talking to anybody, and all of a sudden it just says alligator, and I'm like, okay. And so I was like, okay, so I'm gonna go, and so I left it. That was too weird, too close. But then, then we had the first ghost tour, and so it was at night, and we go out to open up the house, like unlock the houses, and we realized that the air conditioner is broken in both of the houses. We're like, this is unreal. Like, are you kidding me? Like, here we have all these people coming, and they're gonna be spending time in the house. It's so hot. So we took forever, got it fixed. Okay. Then comes around a few months later when we're gonna do the second ghost tour. And we go out there to unlock the houses, and both of the air conditioners are broken again. And we're like, and this is like 4 months apart. We had no problems in that 4 months, but on the two particular nights that we're going to be there with investigators, the air conditioner breaks. And I'm like,
that's crazy.
I don't think the in the houses they wanted us there those particular nights, or they just wanted to make it as uncomfortable as they could, or they wanted to give us an authentic experience of no air conditioner as their time there. Next time we had the ghost tour, we had an AC group come out beforehand just to make sure that everything was in working order. So thankfully we didn't have any problems that next time. But it seems to fall always on those nights. So I'm curious as when we have our late night investigation this week, if the air conditioners will or will not be working. We will see. But
an authentic experience. And I wonder, like, do you ever feel any cold spaces?
Well, so when I went through one of the houses on, a lady came for a tour, doing the whole tour through the museum, and then we go out to the houses, and she's like, just so you know, I am a medium, like, I pick up presences. She's like, I'm interested in history, but she's like, I definitely feel presences here. She's like, there's been a woman watching us from the stairwell in the museum. And she's like, she has nothing really to say. She's kind of watching over it. I'm like, okay, all right. So then we go out to the Walsh house and we walk in and she's like, yes, definitely something right away. And then with that, as we walk in, I feel the back of my shirt get tugged. And that's never happened before. Like, and I even like, I'm like, okay, science. I turn around and I look, there's nothing for my shirt to be snagged on. Like, it's not snagged on my pants. And it definitely was like a physical pull on my shirt. That was weird. So it wasn't like a temperature thing, but it was, we walked in, she's like, oh yeah. And then boom, I got pulled. I was like, okay. Yeah. I don't know. Once I started like trying to write down all of the things that have happened, and it's weird how long my list has gotten. And I'm like, okay, it starts adding up. Mm-hmm. And in that, I am particularly, I love the Walsh house, the second house, the house that's on the right of our two historic houses. That's just, I don't know, if they would let me live in it, I always say I would live in it. It's just such a neat house. But it was built in 1914 as a catalog home. So it was shipped in parts to be built. And the first family that built it and lived there was the Walsh family. And so Mrs. Walsh, she was actually really involved in the women's club. And
some of her name on some articles.
Oh yeah, she like helped found the one in Davie and then was really involved in the Fort Lauderdale one too. And she was driving to Fort Lauderdale for a women's club meeting when she was killed in a car accident. In a rendezvous with a train, unfortunately. So that's that's just horrific. And then 2 months later, her husband passed in the house from a stroke. And so I'm like, it's just, that's like the most tragic story there. You know, that's attached to one of the locations that we have, and it's sad. But thankfully, like the school, we don't have that kind of tragic stories. But so I say, if something's going to be attached to a building or place, it's that house, because they were there. And I had 2 interns on separate occasions when we have interns, they do projects. And so for this particular intern, and their project was going to be in the house, so we walk out there and open the door, and he's like, nope. I'm like, what? And he's like, no. He's like, is there any other project I can do? He's like, I pick up things, I'm not going in there. I'm like,
wow.
What? Okay, so then I had to figure out a new project, and then another time I had another intern who we walked in and she walked right out. She's like, I'm okay. I don't really want to spend time in there. I'm like, wow. So, and that's I don't tell them any of the backstory or anything. Afterwards, I'm like, do you really feel something? Because this is kind of the history of the house, and so it was just so bizarre.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. So we did the ghost tour as well.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, and when we went in, we were talking a lot with one of the investigators. I forget his name, but he was so funny because he kept like giving us equipment, because I kept saying that I felt weird, like, so it was like the beginnings of a panic attack feeling. So my fingers got numb and I felt short of breath, and I'm like, that's okay, come on, what's going on? So I would step out of a room and I wouldn't feel it, and then I would step in the room, and it was the room, that alligator room, that whole, and every time I stepped in there, I felt like panicky. And so I just like left that room, and then I didn't feel it anywhere else until I got to the attic in which house was it?
The Veely house, yeah.
Yes, yeah, until I got to the attic there, and then I was in this corner, and again, I got, like, the numb fingers, and it felt like, you know when someone's just kind of, like, next to you, always, like, right up your butt kind of thing? It felt like that. It felt like I had my dad, like, right behind me, like, that's the kind of presence it was. And I kept turning over, and I'm like, okay, I don't know. Nope, I'm not doing this. And then again, one of the investigators came over, and I was like, did you say something? Because it felt like, I feel like I missed something. And he's like, no. And then he gave me the EMF reader. He's like, oh, you want to talk to it?
Oh, wow.
I was like, I don't know, man.
We play Dungeons and Dragons, and legitimately, when we go into rooms like that where there's something going on in the room, and it's one of the rooms in the house, like the attic, I get flashbacks to the tour.
Yeah.
And the that we got while we were on the tour. And like,
yeah, because there were specific spots, like, I think in that same house, in the dining room, we used the phone reader, and I kept asking, like, what's going on, whatever, how are you feeling okay? And we got responses, and the word that kept coming up was yellow. Like, over and over again. And I was like, okay, I don't have yellow on me. But
interesting. I think I need to start keeping a log of what everybody says, because it'll all be connected at some point, you know? It'll all come.
Right? All of a sudden it makes a full sentence after a year.
Yeah, exactly. Which, maybe that's how it works. In the Veely house, we went in on one of the tours with a medium, and she came up to me, she's like, okay, I really feel the presence of an older man who feels trapped, but like he wants to move and he just can't move. And I was like, okay, well that does connect to something, because, and she's like, oh, and then she's like, over here, and she pointed to where like the old wheelchair is in that room. And that was Ed Veely's wheelchair, and he lived to be like 94 and passed away, I'm pretty sure, in that chair. And like unable to walk kind of thing. And I was like, oh, that definitely connects. That's very strange. Yeah. So that chair is still in there. You don't notice it's a wheelchair, but it does have like, it is rolling wheels on the underneath it. But yeah. So that was really strange that day too. And well, and then I don't know if it was the ghost tour that you guys were on, but we one time when I took like the first group to the Walsh house, and I have my little app open, and the first word that came up was 13. And so then I looked around and I counted all of us, and there were 13 of us.
That was us.
That was you? Okay. Yeah, there were 13 of us that had just walked into the house, and I was like, okay, it's here, and it's paying attention to. And so on that same day, there was a kid who was sitting in a chair that actually has a rope over it. You're not supposed to sit in that particular chair because the bottom is not secure. So I went over to ask him, I'm like, okay, please make sure don't sit on that furniture. So he stepped away. In the next group, so the groups rotate, and so they went to the next house, and a new group of people came in, and in that group was a medium, and she said that there's a woman, she picked up a woman, and she's not happy about people touching the furniture. And I was like, oh, that's, I agree. Like, you please don't sit on our furniture. And I think maybe you're picking up me. I'm not, now that I think about it, but
we're home after all this time.
It just was very surreal for me to have talked to them about the chair that she said that. But then in the third group, so another completely new set of people, they came in and they were walking around, and there is a couch in the middle, and you can sit on that. It's not marked off. You can sit on it. And so there was, I think it was 2 or 3 women who were there. Was 2 daughters and their mother. And they were like, oh, something doesn't like it when my mom sits on this couch. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, they're like, watch what happens. And so they had that K2 meter, the one that lights up from green to red. And the mom, she sat down on the couch, and it went all the way up to red. And she got up, and it went back down. And then another woman sat down, and it didn't do anything for her. So she got back up. Then the mom sat down again on the couch, and it went up to red. So for some reason, it just did not didn't particularly like that woman sitting on that couch. It was really weird how I was like, oh, this is like the night of chairs, like it all. Everybody.
Well, it's funny. It makes it really human because, you know, like you don't like certain people, or like, hey, don't come in my house, or what, just like silly little things. And it translates to the ghost world.
Maybe she looked like an old neighbor that they didn't get.
Right, like just don't hang around too long or something. And then just this past week, Lisa, one of our lovely ladies who works there, we were getting ready for a program. We've been doing an after school program, just like once a week for people to come in. So she was setting up, and she comes to the office, and she's like, Kimmy, were you in the school just now? And I was like, nope. And she's like, okay, well, I definitely heard a whole bunch of weird stuff. And I was like, what do you mean? And so she's like, okay. So she's like, I heard a door slam, so I called out for you and didn't get a response. And then I heard a door slam again, and then called out for you, no response. And then she heard footsteps upstairs. Like she was downstairs in the hallway and heard the footsteps across the auditorium floor. And we're like, are you kidding me? Like, so we're like, okay, how can we science this? How can we test and see what could have actually happened? You know, let's not jump to the paranormal right away. So, so should we go and we try and figure out what door upstairs could slam? And none of them can slam like the way she heard it. Like I made her stand downstairs where she said she was, and I went and tried all the doors that could have like accidentally closed by themselves. Like I'm like, okay, maybe they sat on the latch, you know, and then a gust of wind pulled it closed. So I tried to do that, and there was no door that would on its own sit on the ledge, like or the latch of the door, and close to make the sound that she heard. So I was like, but how about this? And I opened the door that comes out to the elevator and slammed it. And she's like, yep, that's it. And I was like, well, the only way to make that sound is forcefully open and close it. And so we did for it to have been twice. We were like, well, maybe somebody snuck up the elevator and snuck down. She's like, I was in the hallway. I would have seen somebody, you know, moving around. And then she heard the steps after the doors closed. So they would have still been there if there was somebody there. And so it was the weirdest thing that's happened.
Yeah. Isn't there, didn't you say when we were on the tour that there was a man that lived upstairs?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The one of the principals, he didn't have anywhere to live, so he lived upstairs, Mr. Albertson. And I think he had, I don't know if he had one or two daughters that lived there as well, and their kids, like, so we've had people come by who are his grandkids, and so they'll still visit. They don't live in the area, but they check in with us to make sure we're I'm like, I might tell them, you might still be here if you want to ask them any questions. But it's so weird.
In one of the classrooms, Angelica was asking for Mr. Albertson, and then someone said he liked to drink. And then was there a bottle? There was a bottle. One of the investigators brought a bottle in there because he said when he asked before, he said he liked to drink. And then they were asking for Mr. Albertson, and he I guess like they went close to the bottle, and there was a little bit of a spike.
Oh wow.
And then when Angelica was asking for him, there was a bit of a spike. There were a couple teachers in the room, and when they started talking about students being bad, there was a spike.
Oh, wow. Well, that's what, so, like, we only know a handful of names. I don't know, like, every name of every name of the teachers. I don't know all of the students. So when we pick something up, it could, you know, it could totally be in connection with something, but we don't have that information. And that always bothered that. I'm like, I want to know everything. So
yeah,
but,
I know. It's like, oh, can you just have a conversation with, like, manifest, please?
Yes,
I won't be scared. I won't run away. Just talk to the mic and tell us your entire story.
And it's crazy the feelings you get in the on the actual property, because you know you don't feel things in every room. It's not like you're expecting anything. You have to always go in not expecting something, but, you know, in the classroom with all the desks and chairs, it was like, okay, it's just a classroom, la, 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 la. And then when you go into, like, the alligator room, it's like, I'm good.
Well, and it's funny that you say the alligator room, because I usually hear it more about the mural room, the room next door. Because that's one where, in 1 week, I had 3 different people tell me something about that. There was one when we were getting ready for a program, and Miss Diana, one of the volunteers, she was setting up. She came running into the office and was like, was anybody in the school? We're like, no. She's like, somebody just walked by the door. And I went out to talk to them, and there was nobody there to talk to. She's like, they were gone. And I'm like, oh boy. Okay, well, that's weird. So they passed in front of the mural room. Then that's that week was the first time that we met this paranormal group that is coming to do our tours now, Tim and Eric. And they were there during the day and kind of used some of their different equipment and came in. And I was like, did you find anything? And they're like, well, we definitely picked up something standing right there in front of that mural room. I'm like, okay. All right. That's weird. Because Miss Diana just saw something there. And then that weekend, we had a open house, I think it might have been the Orange Blossom Festival. And so we're free for that day. And so we have lots of people coming and going. And so in the hustle of all these people, this woman comes up. She's like, do you work here? I'm like, yep. And she's like, well, don't want to sound crazy or anything, but I pick up entities and I feel something very strong in that room, like at the door of that room, like at the mural room. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Please? It was, I was like, I think I stared at her wide-eyed and she probably thought I thought she was crazy, but I was really registering like, oh gosh, that's three confirmations, like very closely together. So that was weird. But
yeah, and crazy about the schoolhouse and the other houses is that, you know, like there are so many different components in the location. Like it's not all from, you know, the schoolhouse. It's not all houses. Yeah. It's donating it too. Mm-hmm. So who knows who's attached to it based off of, you know, those other places, those other people.
Absolutely. That's we just had a flea market, so we had all kinds of things donated, and that was in the other building in the cafeteria. And we had the investigators there, and I was like, you might want to just go through the flea market. You might pick up something. And so they did. They went through. I don't know if there's anything in particular, but they said this would be like a cacophony of voices there. Like if something was attached to all of the things in the flea market. I'm like, I know, maybe we should have you come check things before we make sure whatever's attached is okay with us putting it on display.
That might be a new consider.
Oh boy, but so we'll see. I'm very excited for this October 30th investigation because it's a later than we usually go. We usually do from like 7 to 10, and this one we're gonna do from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. And which talking with Tim last week on this podcast, he said it doesn't really matter day or night, or it might depend on the location of day or night what you find. Like something might be more active at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, but we've never done this late, so we'll see what kind of comes up this late.
Yeah.
So, well, I'm very curious. We'll keep you updated.
Yeah. They might poke some bears with being there after hours, you know. You know, maybe they should look in that dining room to find out why Yellow's so...
I'm going to write it down and I'll ask about it.
But definitely in the attic, I just can't get over the fact that I literally felt like a man was just behind me. Because it honestly, I was like, my dad's behind me. And then I saw him across the room. And I'm like, that's not cool. Okay, what?
Oh, yeah. No, well, we'll ask some more questions. That's what it's all research is what it is. So
definitely, that's a good way to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's cool. There was the study in the study in Germany where they studied each entity or anything like that. Every type of
I don't know. I remember.
Okay.
Telling your story.
There was a study. I don't remember if it was in Germany or something, but the army was studying energy, and they're the ones that came up with poltergeist, entity, spirit, whatever. So because there were like energies in the field that were unidentifiable, they started researching it. So there's research on energies of what the energies are and their specific thing. I haven't done like deep dive. It was just interesting that I read it. So I want to look more into it, but I find it very interesting that this wasn't coming from, you know, some psychic medium doing the research. This was from a legitimate army base doing research. What is this?
And they're probably not publishing the most interesting information, you know what I mean? They're probably keeping that under wraps.
Question mark?
Those are the files that we'll find one day. They'll be...
one day.
40 years later.
Exactly.
We'll all be in our own wheelchairs and then going up to...
I knew it. I knew there were...
Exactly. But, well, thank you guys so much for telling stories with me.
Thank you for telling stories with us.
Yeah, it's a blast. The crossover is amazing.
Yeah. Woohoo. So, yay. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, definitely.